welcome you guys and probably know. So look, man, this is an exciting one. This was put together well. Like we've been expecting to meet with Matt for a few weeks now, and I think it's super important that not only I learn more, but y'all learn more. Right? It's super important that we get the right information out about everybody. And I'm gonna do a little introduction. This is Matthew Willard. He's our state representative, District 97, born and raised in New Orleans. Went to Jesuit High School. I'm not gonna hold him too much on that because I'm a Holy Cross man. But so all my Holy Cross people out there, just bear with me, all right? He's been a state representative this is his second term. He's in his second term, and they voted him in twice, so that means something, right? And we're gonna get into kind of what that means. I'm looking more into his stuff, man. He's super into STEM and bringing STEM to the community. Gambit 40 under 40. He's been doing a lot of things in the community. That's something that we're going to talk about. So this STEM stuff, Matt, like, first of all, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be a guest for you, and I have a lot of respect for everything that you do for our community. So thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, man. So I see this STEM stuff, man, K through 12 STEM education program and all this thing that you're doing. It seems like you're the chair of that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. We could just kind of jump there. Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, it actually ties into why I ran for the legislature initially. I got tired of people talking about the same problems, but not proposing innovative solutions. I worked for a technology company. We actually were a startup that was created on Tulane's campus. And we actually had a successful story. We had an exit. One of our investors acquired our company. So now we're, semi-corporate. But when I got to Baton Rouge, I started thinking about things strategically. Mm-hmm. And if I want to be successful for the people of New Orleans, I have to build relationships. And I want to do things to improve economic development and economic diversification. A lot of people talk about it. Not many people do anything about it. So I decided to create the STEM Innovation Caucus. It didn't exist. So I'm the founder of the STEM Innovation Caucus. And then I found my vice chair as a Republican out of Shreveport. Mm-hmm. To build those relationships that I needed to succeed in Baton Rouge. Sure. And the overall idea and goal with that caucus is to make sure that the work that Dr. Mackey does with STEM NOLA, getting our kids excited about science, engineering, and math, I want to make sure that when those kids finish up high school and college, that they have STEM jobs that will keep them in the city of New Orleans. Because we don't want to educate them here and then send them off somewhere else.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's the goal for the caucus.
Man, listen, that's something I ain't know. And I appreciate that. Like, that's because STEM is, AI, all these different things are coming apart, and I don't know if this city has enough of it.
We definitely don't. Okay. And I think we could explore a lot of those technologies to improve city services for the people of New Orleans. There's cost savings that you could realize and obviously improved efficiency. So I definitely think, I'm running for council at large, Division 1. Correct. That's definitely something that I want to explore for the city of New Orleans.
And is there something like with jobs and stuff? If a big tech company come, right, that means they can employ some of our residents here.
Yeah, but the problem is if a big tech company wants to come here, we need to make sure that we have the workforce to take on those jobs. And the reason I cite that, a few years ago, we celebrated the announcement that DXC, which is a Fortune 500 company, huge software company, they operate in multiple industries. They said they were going to open up an office space here in New Orleans, and it was going to be great for the greater New Orleans area. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of people didn't realize is that a lot of the positions that they were hiring for, our people in New Orleans couldn't take those positions. We didn't have the certification. We didn't have the credentials. We didn't have the training. Wow. And one example I know because I actually had the qualifications. They were hiring for a form of project management known as a Scrum Master. A Scrum Master is a project manager, and I actually had the credential for it because I did that for my job with the tech company, right? Mm-hmm. So they were trying to hire dozens of Scrum Masters, and we didn't have that many in the city of New Orleans. Mm-hmm. So those positions remain vacant. Right. And so when we talk about economic development and creating jobs in the city of New Orleans, we also need to make sure that our locals here in the city of New Orleans can take those jobs.
Qualified enough to get that.
Not just qualified, but we need to know what's coming down the pipeline. Right. And so if we know these type of jobs are coming, then we know we can work with Delgado and Holy Cross and UNO to make sure that our students are pursuing those credentials, those certifications, and getting that training so that when those jobs come, they can take on those jobs.
Listen, I'm on board. I love it. I appreciate it. So look, we're going to jump straight into questions. Again, this is Matthew Willard, who's running for city council at large. So these are questions that come from the community, right? These are not questions from me.
Yep.
I want to take myself out of these type of deals like this because I don't want to put my bias on it. So the first question is this. This has come from a community member. It says, city council at large represents the entire city, not just one district. How do you plan to ensure all communities, including undeserved areas like New Orleans East or Algiers, are equally prioritized in the policy making?
Okay, so making sure that everybody in the city of New Orleans is prioritized in policy decisions.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think the first thing that we got to do is acknowledge that New Orleans does not succeed until all of New Orleans succeeds. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of issues that affect the entire city of New Orleans. Infrastructure.
Sure.
If you go from the West Bank to New Orleans East, if you go from Gentilly all the way to the Bywater, what do we have? Terrible roads, terrible streets. We have blight, litter, debris, broken street lights, potholes everywhere. The East suffering from boil water advisories, what seems like every week.
I know.
West Bank flooded, I think last week when we had a hard rain.
It did.
So for me, helping everybody in the city of New Orleans means focusing on those essential services that the city of New Orleans has to provide. Beyond that, it means being accessible in those districts, right? So the good thing about the city council is that everybody has a direct district representative. Yep. And that is the person that you go to day in and day out for those issues. As a council member at large, and I think my experience in the legislature speaks to this, I work well with everybody. And so as a council member at large, I would certainly work with all of those district council members to help them prioritize what's really important in their districts. Beyond that, I'm going to show up in their districts like I do right now. I go to all my neighborhood association meetings. I'm very boots on the ground in my district, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to continue that work, showing up to neighborhood association meetings, civic association meetings, and making sure that their voices are heard. That way it can inform policy decisions that we make at the city council level.
And it seems like, working together is something super important to you. And I didn't even say this in the intro, but you are the chair of the
House Democratic
Caucus.
Yep.
The youngest person, the one that brings everybody together. You're the chair. They voted you to be the chair of that.
Correct. Right.
So it's important to you, right?
Absolutely. So just, real quick, I got elected to the legislature at 31 years old. I was the youngest member up there for my first 4 years, my first term. Right. My second half of that term, the members of the House Democratic Caucus elected me to be the vice chair.
Crazy.
And I oversaw our election campaign in 2023. And following that, the members of the caucus saw me fit to elect me as chairperson of the House Democratic Caucus. And look, the way I approached that role was I'm really one of the big faces for the Democratic Party in the state of Louisiana, and we got a lot of work to do. Yeah. And so that's what I've been trying to do, keeping us all together and actually focusing on issues that affect people day in and day out. It shouldn't be this hard to live here.
Pretty hard. It's pretty hard. I ain't gonna lie. And a lot of the my followers definitely struggle with different things, and they reach out to me, and it'd be good to have somebody that like you to work with them. You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely.
All right. So we're gonna get into the next question. So the next question is: people say that you voted against, and again, this is community questions. People say that you voted against most every bill in the crime session. And you routinely speak out against crime-related legislation. They want to know why is that, if that's even true.
So the big part is about the crime session. Mm-hmm. All right, can I give you a quick rundown of events? So in 2023, we had our statewide election cycle. Jeff Landry was elected as governor without a runoff.
Mm-hmm, straight up. Mm-hmm.
I was shortly after that elected to be chairperson of the House Democratic Caucus. Okay. And at that point, I started meeting with our stakeholders. I started meeting with DPECs. I started meeting with community leaders and trying to figure out what we need to do as a party to start moving ourselves forward to make sure something like that didn't happen again. When we turned into 2024, the governor put his foot on the gas. Yes. And it was all gas, no brakes.
Yes, it was.
We had a special session dealing with redistricting in January. And then in February, we had the special session on crime. Mm-hmm. And let me just tell you, when there is a special session, the items that you deal with are based on what the governor decides. And so when the governor drafted the issues that we would deal with for the special session on crime, we had no input, and it was all about issues that occurred after the fact. What I mean is it occurred after a crime happened. And there was nothing in there about preventative measures. There was nothing in there about improving education. There was nothing in there about workforce development. There was no money in there for reentry programs. There was no money in there or focus about the youth programming. There was nothing in there for mentorship programs. And for me, I think if you really want to address crime, you have to address it holistically. And so being the chairperson of the House Democratic Caucus and knowing that I represent a district in the city of New Orleans, I did oppose a lot of those measures that came from the governor. But let me tell you, I'll give you an example. So there was one bill that was doing away with good time. And there was another bill that was dealing with the way juveniles are sentenced. I think what it was doing is saying that certain crimes that juveniles commit, they wouldn't be eligible for a reduced sentence. They would have to serve the entire sentence that they got.
Gotcha.
We tried to amend that bill and force the state to provide workforce development and education in those programs, and it was voted down. So there was no collaboration. It was like, take this or not, right? And so for me, when you talk about crime, I don't think making it harder for people to get parole and probation and making it easier for them to offend on parole and probation is really going to address crime. What it does is make our corrections officers more unsafe, because now you've removed the incentive that men and women in prison have to behave well. They behave well and they do what they're supposed to do in many cases because they're trying to get a reduction in their sentence. They're trying to get parole. They're trying to go out on probation. And so we remove that, right? We made it harder for them to earn good time. So that was a huge incentive as well, right? So you're doing what you're supposed to do in jail. You're going to school, you're working your job, you're cleaning up, you're not getting involved in incidents. You could earn good time. That was gone. On top of that, that session, we also passed permitless carry, right? So we're in a special session to deal with crime, but at the same time, a bill was passed to say you don't have to have any training, you don't have to take a course, and you don't have to have a permit to conceal carry a handgun in the state of Louisiana.
I was definitely against that.
And so when you put all that together, I just didn't think that was the right approach to addressing the issues that we have, right? And what we saw in the city of New Orleans at that time was crime rates starting to come down.
It was.
Now I will acknowledge one thing that I think the governor has helped us in the city of New Orleans with, and that's Troop NOLA. And that's Troop NOLA. And that is something that we needed. And from what I'm hearing from NOPD, there's been better collaboration. You know, I think if they can focus on major crimes and on our highways and interstate, that's a big deal, right? But for me, it's not about harsher penalties. We have to be smart in the ways that we approach crime. And we have to make investments into our youth if we really want to talk about juvenile crime. One of the bills that I passed in the legislature allows NOPD to use more civilians to handle administrative operations, right? And so, and we know we got a workforce issue. We don't have enough police officers. That's what everybody tells us, right? And so if we can allocate them to more serious issues like patrolling our neighborhoods and doing investigations for major crime, then I think our city is a little bit safer.
Well said. I don't have no argument with that. I like it. So we're just gonna move on to the next one. That was perfect.
And the last thing I'll say, Justin, we were already the incarceration capital. And so I really don't think that throwing everybody in jail is the right answer. And I really don't think throwing all of our children in jail and locking them up and throwing away the key is the right answer. I think that is a lazy answer. And I think if we really want to change statistics and outcomes in New Orleans and in Louisiana, we have to be smarter about it, and we have to allocate resources to really address those issues that are plaguing us, like poverty, like domestic violence, like the lack of job opportunities.
No, I get it. I'm on board. So my next question is going to be, what grade would you give the DA, judges after all that we have seen and documented, does I guess does he? Are we going to hold the DA accountable in legislation? So, what do you think about that? Like, what grade would you give him, and should we hold him accountable in legislation?
Look, I mean, I think there's already a process to hold the DA and our judges accountable. They got to run for re-election every 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just like me, just like the attorney general, just like the governor. Those are all elected positions. And what I have issue with is the state of Louisiana trying to insert itself into New Orleans elected officials. Right? Those officials were elected by the people in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I mean, we do see stories that
Mm-hmm.
are tragic. We see stories that we don't understand. We see stories that don't make any sense. One thing I'll mention with the judges can't politic and defend themselves. So when you start talking about cases before a judge, they can't go on Fox 8. They can't go on Empower NOLA and defend themselves. They can't do that. So they can't tell you the other side of the story.
About why they made that decision.
Why they made decision. Mm-hmm. And something else we got to understand is that it truly is a system, right? Mm-hmm. So the sheriff has a role to play. The DA has a role to play. Yep. The judges have a role to play. The clerks of court have a role to play. The public defenders have a role to play, who are, if we're being honest, also being attacked and severely underfunded. Mm-hmm. And so one wrench in the system can throw everything off. So as far as accountability goes, I think the people are the ones who are in the best position to hold our judges and our DA accountable. And I really do have issues with some of the attempts in Baton Rouge to kind of wrest power away. One thing I'll say with Troop NOLA coming in, I think the AG's office has been prosecuting those cases. And from my understanding, the DA's office has been open to that because they have, I guess, workforce issues too, right? And so we can accept help, right? We can accept help, but hopefully it's being done in a collaborative approach.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think that's what they was asking about legislation and stuff like that. So you answered it clearly for that person that's wondering, All right. So my next question we're gonna do is tell us about how you've supported community through your own service efforts or partnerships with individuals and organizations.
Community
organizations. Yeah. So how do you support community through your own service?
Yeah.
And partnering with other people through their service.
Okay. So if I go back a few years before I was in the legislature, I was a board member for a nonprofit. We closed operations because we had some issues, but we were trying to provide long-term housing for men that were coming out of residential rehabilitation centers, people getting help for substance abuse disorders, which is a huge problem in the city of New Orleans. Yes. I was my neighborhood association president for about 4 years. And the reason for that is because after I got elected to the legislature, they wanted me to continue being the neighborhood president, and I couldn't get anybody to step in. So it took me a couple of years to find somebody to step in. But if you go through my legislative career, I got elected in 2019, and then what happened in 2020? We had COVID, right? And so during COVID, I worked with Homeland Security. I worked with Councilmember Moreno. I worked with Juan LaFonta. I worked with Second Harvest Food Bank. I worked with St. Raymond, St. Leo the Great Catholic Church. I worked with Beacon Light. I worked with all of our community partners and community leaders, Clerk of Court Arthur Morrell, to do PPE giveaways, to do food giveaways, and to bring hot food into some of our senior centers in nursing facilities. So that was one of the first things, coming in with COVID, trying to respond to the needs of the community. And there was a need for food. There was a need for PPE. And there was a need for really hot meals to our seniors. And even just driving around and checking on some of the seniors I met during my campaign. Later that year, we got hit. Well, we didn't get hit, but Southwest Louisiana got hit with hurricanes, 3 major hurricanes. I went out in Lake Charles and volunteered a couple weekends to help people clear trees off of their property, pick up fences, all kind of issues from the hurricane. Yeah. And then we saw the same thing in 2021 with Hurricane Ida. I was loading up generators in my truck and bringing them to different parts of the state. And then when Ida hit us, I was bringing generators to restaurants in the Bywater. I was bringing generators to restaurants in mid-city, to churches, like really just being responsive and hands-on where it goes. And then, being in New Orleans, being on the coast, we get a lot of hurricanes, we get a lot of major storms, we get heavy rainfall events,
Thanks.
right? And so the city does sandbag giveaways. And so
I saw you out there recently doing a sandbag recently.
it's not just recently.
I know, I'm saying I saw it. That's when I saw it recently. Like the other day, I think you posted.
If you go on my social media pages, you're gonna
scroll through.
See me doing sandbag giveaways in 2020.
Right.
But I've been doing stuff like that since I've been in office. Cleaning going to neighborhood cleanups and cleaning out catch basins.
That's what we need.
I mean, just whatever the neighborhood needs, whatever the community needs, I try to step up and fill that gap. And recently I've been occupied. We were in session more than half of the year last year, so I was in Baton Rouge doing a lot of that. And as chairperson of the House Democratic Caucus, like I said, trying to be one of the faces for the Democratic Party in the state and rebuild hope and optimism, traveling to other parts of the states for town halls and stuff. I mean, I do town halls to keep people in the loop of what's going on in the legislature, and I try to make a direct correlation to how it's going to affect us in the city of New Orleans.
Gotcha, man. That's awesome. All right, and I think from what I read, do you do Christmas giveaways? Do you do something?
Yeah, so when I got elected, I said I want to do one big event every year.
Okay.
And for me, the reason I went with toy giveaway for Christmas, the reason I went with that is because it hurts my heart to think about kids waking up on Christmas and not having no toys to open, no presents to play with.
Right.
And that's why I do my toy giveaway every year. And unfortunately, we have a lot of kids in the city of New Orleans who wake up to Christmas and don't have not only nothing under the tree, but they don't have a tree. And so the toy giveaway is something that I'm committed to. I'm gonna do that every year because I want to put as much joy during the holiday season as I can for the kids in New Orleans.
We appreciate it for sure. All right. So my next question, man. My next question is: so you have 2 terms inside our legislation. You've been 2 terms in. Can you name one single legislation that you have authored that's been most impactful for the city of New Orleans?
Just one?
It's just one. Just one. I know it's probably more, but just one. Maybe 2 if we could fit it in
all right.
5 minutes.
All right, I'm gonna give you 2.
All right, go.
All right. So just to, I don't know if you noticed, I've passed 37 bills.
Okay.
I've passed
authored and passed.
I've passed.
Okay.
37 bills that I filed have become law.
Fire. Okay.
Like I've created 37 laws. So I'm pretty effective up there. You know what I mean? Right. 2 of the big things that I've done that I would probably call out. One of the questions you asked was, how do I serve the entire city as a council member at large? Yep. So my district office gets a lot of local issues. We get a lot of calls and emails from people because they know we're going to help them to the best of our ability. We get a lot of local issue requests. And one of the biggest ones that we're dealing with sewage and water board bills. And, I'm sure a lot of people watching right now have had inaccurate sewage and water board bills. And hopefully you reached out to somebody for help.
Right.
And so it's crazy. I was talking to my girlfriend one night, and I said, we keep tiptoeing around trying to address the billing issues with sewage and water board. I think I'm going to file a bill that says they can't do any more estimated bills, because it was like every bad sewage and water board bill somebody had received was an estimated bill.
For sure.
And so I remember that. I filed the bill and said, hey, sewage and water board, you can't issue any more estimated bills. And guess what? It passed. And so you're not going to get estimated bills anymore because of a law that I passed in Baton Rouge. The second thing I'm going to talk about for all the people who, are homeowners out there. And look, New Orleans is going through an affordability crisis right now.
Yes.
Property taxes are high. Rent is high. And then on top of that, you got unaffordable flood insurance. But more so that affects more people is homeowners insurance. And I happen to be on the insurance committee.
Okay.
So I passed the only bill that will guarantee you get a reduction in your homeowner's premium. It's tied to fortified roofs. So my bill says if you have a fortified roof that has been certified on your property, your insurance company has to give you a premium reduction, right? That bill affects everybody. And then on top of that, we got a grant program at the state level where people can get up to $10,000 to put a fortified roof on their home. And I passed legislation to say that that is a permanent program because it was only supposed to run for 2 years.
And it's still going.
Yes, it's still going, and we added more money to the program this year, this session. So be on the lookout later this year. If you're looking for a fortified roof, the lottery program will open up later this year.
Yep. And can you let me know when that?
Absolutely.
So I could let them know. All right.
But and if you go to my social media, you're gonna see I post about it too. And the first time it opened up, the city of New Orleans, we came second to St. Tammany. Slidell had more people get it, but we were right behind. And guess what? In New Orleans, my district had the most people get the grant because I was promoting it so much. You was on it.
Yeah. So listen, when that comes up, we definitely gonna be posting. We're gonna bring him back on so he can let us know exactly how to go about that process. So we're gonna be good. We're gonna be squared away. All right. So my next question is this, man. If I was to go in your district and interview just a random person in your district, how would they describe you and the work that you've done as a state rep?
I think they would say that I'm effective. I think they would say that I'm accountable. I think they would say that I'm transparent. I think they would say that I'm very accessible, right? That's all
great things. Yeah.
Not only do I go to the neighborhood meetings, but I provide them with updates on what's going on in Baton Rouge. Remember earlier this year we had those 4 constitutional amendments, all of which failed. I do forums about those constitutional amendments. I tell all my neighborhood association people about them to make sure that they're informed. Man, I really think if you talk to anybody in my district that stays in the loop, that's somewhat engaged, they will tell you that I'm effective, that I'm transparent, that I'm accessible, and they're proud of the work that I do. I really believe that. Yeah. And I would say you could test that. No, I think my district is happy with the job I'm doing, and No.
I think. And I'm gonna have to test that one day. I'm gonna have to go in your district and walk around. But it has to be somebody that's engaged. We have a lot of people in the city that's not really engaged on what and just ignorant to the fact of what's going on. So it got to be somebody who's really paying attention to your work and clearly they voted you in again, right? They had an opportunity after your first term to get you out of there.
Yeah. Well, I actually ran unopposed my second time. Nobody qualified against me. Yeah.
And that's another statement, right?
And I'll tell you, there were a couple people who were saying like, man, I was looking at it, but I don't see it. I can't say what you're not doing. And I'm trying to be objective here, but I really do believe that I've represented my district well. And I'm looking to bring that same commitment, that same passion, that same dedication to City Hall and represent everybody in the city of New Orleans as their next council member at large.
Love it. All right, so look, my next question is actually the last question. And probably the highlights issues around youth violence and lack of opportunity. What plan do you have to invest in youth, our young people, and create more economic and educational opportunities for them?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that we need to do everything that we can to invest in our youth. The first thing, which should be a no-brainer, but as it relates to our kids, we got to make sure that the schools get the money that they're supposed to get, right? And that's been an issue lately,
for sure,
right? So we got to make sure our schools get the money that they get. We got to make sure that the students have opportunities for tutoring programs after school, right? And a lot of our kids, transportation is an issue, so we need to meet them where they are. So more community tutoring programs, more things to get them engaged, man. I truly believe that if you can get a kid into something that's productive and give them venues to do that type of work, then they will stay on a straight and narrow path, right? And so for me, it's like we got to fix NORD, right? I don't think NORD is heading in the right direction right now.
I don't think so.
When I grew up, I played at Milne. And our recreational program was great. I played on the Lakeshore All-Star team, so I traveled around, got a few state championships and regional championships, right? NORD is not the same as what it used to be. And so I really think when we get into the budget, we need to make sure that the money we're allocating is being properly spent and that we can actually do a return on investment, right? And if it's not working, we need to change things up. So number one, we really got to right size NORD and make sure that they have everything that they need to serve our kids. because I think more recreational opportunities is a good thing. Mentorship, I mean, for me, I had a lot of strong men in my life growing up, and I had a lot of teachers who took me under their wing and also mentored me and still serve as mentors to me. And I think a lot of our kids in the city of New Orleans don't have those opportunities. We got a lot of kids growing up in single mother households, right? And they don't have those opportunities. And so I think we need to encourage our kids. We need to provide them with mentorship opportunities. We need to provide them with anything that they need to do well in schools. And we need to encourage them to dream. I talk at a lot of schools, and on a few occasions, I've talked to a little kid, and I ask them what they want to be when they grow up. Because every kid should be able to tell you something that they want to be when they grow up, because that's a sign that they're dreaming.
For sure.
And I've spoken to kids who say, you know, I want to be a police officer, or I want to be an astronaut, but my mom said I can't do that, you know, or my uncle said I can't do that. I don't think we should, you know, step on any kid's dreams, right? Because that's a goal that they got to work toward.
Agreed. And I think to wrap the question up, I think NORD issue, what they say is about funding, right? They say they don't have enough funding. So after you look at the budget, when you win, you could kind of look at that to see if they have more funding that can go to them, and make sure it's being utilized correctly as well. But
it also goes to that question about how you represent the entire city, because some NORD facilities are great,
absolutely,
and other ones are terrible,
absolutely,
and that's not right to the kids who live in those areas.
Agreed.
And we need to get everything on, you know, not just on the same playing field, but we need to make sure that all of our facilities are places that we're proud to send our kids.
Right. As far as the look of it, the make of it, the how it is, how it's ran. I mean, I fully agree. All right, y'all. Look, this is the exclusive interview with Matthew Willard. Again, he's running for city council at large. Again, man, I really appreciate you just taking the time to come on my platform to get your word out. And if we could do this again, let's do it again.
I'd be happy to. This was great. I enjoyed it, and you know, I want to talk to the people in New Orleans. I want to let them know who I am. I want to let them know what I stand for, and I want to let them know what I'm going to do as their next council member at large.
You heard it from him. Peace.